Director, Municipal Infrastructure.
Good morning, I'm Batatu, Acting Director, Municipal Support and Capacity Building, Department of Local Government.
Morning, Chair, honourable members. Gary Birch, Director for Specialised Support, DLG.
Morning, Chair and honourable members. Kamal McCann, Director, Municipal Governance.
Good morning, Jasmine Brankis, Deputy Director, District and Local Performance Monitoring.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members and colleagues. This is Sandra Greiling, Chief Director, Municipal Performance Monitoring and Support. And I just want to apologise for HOD's absence this morning, Chair.
No problem. All right, Ms. Greiling, I'm going to hand over to you to kick us off with the presentation. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair. I think we've sent you the section 47 as well as the state of local government, and this is for Q3. And just before I start the presentation, you may note that we may have updated information because we're already starting our engagements in terms of Q4. So if it should change, be slightly different to the state of local government report that we've shared with you. So just going to give you some background. I think for us, because we in the last 5 years and we're moving towards the next, we just want to share with you our vision in terms of the next 5. So we're going to look at our COCTA Municipal Performance Assessment Tool, our monitoring and support approach, our overall performance in terms of the pillars that we've got, coalition government, and then support in terms of the performance of municipalities. So we normally just start with a reflection slide because in terms of monitoring and support, we're trying to move a little more to not just looking at compliance, but also insights that we gather. So if we look at the different coverage in terms of media, a lot of the good articles in terms of municipalities we find in the Western Cape. So we've just pulled out some of the articles. And then if we look at the second slide, for us, that's a comparison. And I think also sometimes it's not just a comparison, but it also tells us not to rest on our laurels and just be mindful of what can go wrong. It also informs then our monitoring and support to municipalities in terms of slide 4. So we wanted specifically to use slide 5, and I think I just want to stand at slide 5 a little. You can see it's quite a busy slide because we started monitoring our whole monitoring framework. We started in 2015-16. At that stage, the Department of Cooperative Governance had brought out a differentiated approach to local government. And I think it was specifically with regard to you've only got so much resources available. How do you approach the different types of municipalities and support them effectively? We then developed in 2016-17 a municipal monitoring tool specifically to look at governance maturity. When we say governance maturity, I link it to the legal compliance in terms of legislation. Then the Department of Cooperative Governance started with a pilot, which they called Circular 88. The pilot is still in a phased approach. It's not yet gone live, so it's not yet regulated at this stage. Once it's regulated, it'll become an audit process. We've used the indicators in the Circular 88 also to do our own indicator development on. And therefore, we've got a municipal performance assessment tool. We've also realized that if we're talking about compliance to monitoring, municipalities need the correct data to be able to inform us. And there's a big lack of reporting at municipal level. It really is around capacity. So there's a lot of buy-in that you've got to do if you want to really land a monitoring tool at this stage. And I think it's a consistent thing that we keep doing. At the moment, just in terms of data sharing, just the complexities around it, if we talk about a household, it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has the same definition of household. So those are the kind of things that we're starting to address in our conversations with municipalities. So in 23-24, we realized that maybe we need to enhance the provincial support to local government. So we've now established an integrated provincial monitoring and support committee so that we as province better support our municipalities, don't duplicate, talk to each other, all understand what's happening in that specific municipal space. And now in 2024-25, we've realized we at the end of the 5 years, we need to step back, reflect on where we are at. And we're in the process for 25-26, we'll review our monitoring and support framework. And I think this is important because monitoring for me is almost like a maturity assessment that you have to keep doing. Where are we at, and then improve it. So for us, if we go to slide 6, this has always been our monitoring and performance monitoring and support approach in the province. We start with monitoring and evaluation. We actually decide on the status of our municipalities, whether they're good or at satisfactory level. Then we've got different IGR platforms that we've got engagements with our municipalities, with our sister departments like Treasury, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. And then we've realized that we've got 2 levels of support. The one is catalytic. And at the moment, we're linking the catalytic support to infrastructure, very much so from this year onwards. And then we've got operational support, which we'll talk to later.
Sorry, Ms. Crown, I don't want to interrupt
Sorry.
you. Just if possible, on this first little diagram, the one that looks like a house, those the pillars, there are a couple that I can't read. I can't read them, and they're either the grey one.
10G.
Okay.
I think we've just pulled that out just to reflect on it separately.
There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's just so
Carry
that
on.
you're able to read
Perfect.
it.
Thanks.
We also have difficulty reading that sometimes. It's a very busy slide. So, in terms of the incentive and support program, at the moment, I think the big conversation is how do we make sure that the money in terms of grants land in the space that they should be landing in. That's a big conversation for us. So we've developed an e-grant system, and I think that's going to help us better in terms of understanding where our money's gone and is it making a difference at this stage, or should we rethink it? And then obviously implementation. So in the province, we've got the joint district and metro approach. So everything from catalytic to operational support lands in a one plan. And I know there's a lot of conversation around the joint district and metro approach in the province currently. So we just wanted to take you to slide 7, which is the national approach. National uses what they call a municipal performance assessment tool, and they put it in place, and we've given you what our municipalities have come up with in terms of the scoring. We must say that the reason why the pilot is not moved into regulatory phase is because we are one of the few provinces that are really giving information to national to actually be able to score us. And we can only say that which the municipality gives is what lands in terms of the categorization. However, Jasmine's team has done a lot of work with regard to ensuring that municipalities actually comply to the request from COCTA. In terms of slide 8, I just want to put in a rider there. Our municipalities are very sensitive if we use the word dysfunctional, so we don't use the word dysfunctional at provincial level, because for us, we are there to support our municipalities. So those that are having a bit of difficulty, they're at low capacity. That's why we're there as province and national to support them. When you go into the rest of the slide presentation, you'll see that the same municipalities that have been flighted as at risk in the 22-23 financial year are the same ones that have come up with regard to our monitoring, because we've based a lot of our monitoring in terms of that. So if we go to slide 10, Chair, the pillars that we're looking at is specifically political oversight, administration and governance, service delivery infrastructure, citizen engagement. We then also have investigations and interventions, and then we've got financial sustainability. Now, I must qualify that the financial sustainability does not live with the Department of Local Government. We work very closely with Treasury because they are responsible for finance, but we've got to look at the finance and the non-financial data together to see where the challenges lie within a municipal space. So we normally have a joint report between us and Treasury that goes to Cabinet on a quarterly basis. So if we go into the council functionality, and I want to start specifically with pillar 1. So the status of council functionality in terms of our monitoring at the moment, the majority of our municipal councils are functional, and for us, functionality is that they are meeting as required. There are, however, obviously some concerns that have been lifted, and we've just listed some of the municipalities that we are concerned about and that we are monitoring and providing support as required. In terms of council functionality, if we look at the practical challenges that we've experienced on the ground, we're just listing them for you there. Coalition government, sometimes it affects prompt and effective decision making. There's an oversight responsibility that's not always fully understood. There is politicking in terms of correctly applying the law. So there's sometimes disregard for the legislative framework. Some unlawful decisions have been made. And then there has been said to be interference in administration. Our specific support in response to this, we've got a zero tolerance, as we call it, in terms of legislative compliance. So we've gone in terms of litigation, we've instituted some challenges in terms of unlawful decisions. We use our Section 106 and our 139 processes. We do training. We do guidance. You can see the different types of guidance that we do, and then oversight committees that we've put in place to try and assist in addressing some of the challenges on the ground. So if we go into the next pillar, which is administrative and governance pillar, there we look mostly at our Section 56 managers and MMs and the vacancies in terms of that. And once again, our administrations are mostly stable and functional. We do have some concerns, however, with regard to the municipalities listed there. We've got a total of 168 senior management positions. 80% of them are filled. There are still some challenges with regard to the appointment process being followed. And then we've also just listed for you the acting MMs appointments currently in our municipalities.
Sorry, Ms. Schreling, I think that stat around the 168, that's not in our report, so that's on this one. Okay, so that's not, just going to make sure that, okay, got it. I don't think we have that. Oh, there we go. Sorry, it's on this one.
Yeah,
my issue. Carry on.
I must go
Carry on.
slower.
Just I keep having to go like this. So
Sorry.
okay,
No, that's
thanks.
why I've taken mine apart so that I'm able to,
Okay,
to
thanks.
talk to it. Right, so that's administration. If we look at the challenges that we see on the ground in terms of administration, it really is around attracting and retaining skills, specifically in our far offset municipalities. I know that we've tried to put in support such as the shared services model, but that on its own has difficulties implementing. We have an insufficient pool, and that really isn't, and Kimmel can talk to that. It really is with regard to the way our legislation is currently structured. There are some challenges that his team is looking at dealing with. And then obviously, when we're talking about compliance and clean audits, it really takes a lot out of any administration to adhere to that, and then still, attend to service delivery at the end of the day. And then at the moment, we've got the staff regulations that have been put in place, and that is quite new to the province. We've now had to actually do an analysis of all the organizational structures of municipalities. That doesn't mean we can tell municipalities how to structure. We can just recommend to them what it is that we would propose that they look at. We are taking this to a new level at the moment. All the comments that we've made to municipalities, we'll be discussing with Provincial Treasury, because there's an element of work that they need to do with regard to affordability of structures. Then we've just listed the different specific support. What we do is, in terms of those pillars that you've seen, support is a strange thing. Sometimes a municipality only has a challenge with regard to one pillar. It may have a challenge maybe with regard to its impact. And then we provide ad hoc support. So we just call it ad hoc support. We then have a transversal program that we run with all municipalities. But it may also be that a municipality comes to us and says, we need support, and then we'll put together an operational support plan. But when we go to the level of a Section 154, we really go in and do a diagnostic and try to understand what lives and what the challenges are. Currently at the moment, and we'll go to that slide when we get there, we've got 3 municipalities that are under Section 139.5. And the way that works is we allow National Treasury to compile a 139.5. And then we come in after the fact, because we focus on governance and service delivery specifically. And we go in a little more in depth in terms of those aspects. And then we develop a 154 to strengthen the 139.5 process. So then we come to service delivery. We've just highlighted in terms of norms and standards, we are quite happy at the moment. And I've just come from a national meeting last week on Monday. And once again, I must honestly say, in terms of the blue drop, the green drop, we really are standing out as a province, and we're quite happy in terms of water and sanitation. We know that a lot of work still needs to be done around waste, but that seems to be a challenge across all provinces at the moment, because it's a very expensive system that we've put in place as South Africa. So just to note that. So in terms of the challenges and support actions, obviously, we've always got historic planning challenges, and they remain. And I think that's what the joint district and metro approach is trying to address also going forward in terms of a longer term kind of planning. And we call it co-planning, co-budgeting and co-implementation. We also then obviously have to address aging infrastructure, because there's insufficient maintenance in terms of our aging infrastructure, because also a buck can only be stretched so far. If you talk to some of our municipalities, and the grant funding doesn't necessarily even take them to where they need to be. And I know a lot of people want to say, but we also want to get involved in the municipal infrastructure grant. But that grant also has only so far that it can go. Then we've got inappropriate asset management practices, premature failing of infrastructure. We've got over-reliance on grant funding. Currently, what we're trying to deal with is vandalism and theft. And our infrastructure colleagues have really come up with a very good campaign. I think it'll be rolled out in the new financial year. Supply chain processes remain a concern, and therefore we're trying to work closer with Treasury. What we have seen, and this comes back to our indicator pool, there definitely is an interface between financial and non-financial indicators, which we've not necessarily picked up on yet. What we've realized is that even in a municipal space, your CFO and your infrastructure colleagues don't necessarily talk to each other. So when it is with regard to infrastructure projects, your bid committees don't necessarily sit because they're not constituted. And therefore, there's a delay in infrastructure project and spend. And then there's obviously a lack of suitable technical skills. At the moment, I really actually want to say it's not just technical skills, but we're seeing it in the HR environment as well, because HR is a strategic function in a municipality, and it should assist municipalities in ensuring that they've got the right set of people in the organization. So we're going to move there, and not even to say in terms of ICT and data management and that. I mean, that's a different area altogether that we also need to focus on. The specific support actions you can see there, I think the last time we did talk about our CIDF program. So that's where we're moving towards at the moment. We've really deployed quite a lot of our own staff to assist municipalities, and we've mentioned some of them there. In terms of water infrastructure, that's, I don't want to say collapsed, Mariusne, that we've had challenges with, that we've had to go and put short, medium and long-term plans in place for the municipality, and now we've got to work with them to make sure that it's actually implemented. And then also we've put in place technical and legal advisory on projects, because contract management is definitely an issue. And then we've got targeted support programs with our water and energy resilience grants that we're putting in place at the moment. Right, then when we're talking about compliance in terms of infrastructure, this is one of our slides, and this definitely assists us because it's a long-term kind of planning that we do in infrastructure currently, other than the CIDF, and that's our municipal infrastructure grant. And then also there's the urban infrastructure development grant, which only some of our municipalities qualify for. It's normally the secondary cities. And you'll see there are 3 municipalities there that are of concern to us at the moment. But we've put in place weekly meetings to make sure that the projects are moved in terms of progress. Then we come to the interventions and investigations. In terms of Section 139, I've listed Beaufort, Kannaland and Teewaters at the moment are the three municipalities that are under intervention, and specifically it's a financial recovery plan. And I'll show you what financial recovery plan means when we get to that specific slide. And then the Section 106 investigations that Gary's unit is busy with at the moment. We need to just highlight the financial management pillar so that we get an understanding of what financial recovery plan means. Specifically, slide 20. This is the indicators that Treasury uses. They've got 10 indicators that they use. So for them, when a municipality meets 3 of the indicators, it suggests that there are a few issues to follow up on. But when they meet 4, it means that they need targeted support. So that's the way in which Treasury is dealing with financial recovery at the moment. And if you move to slide 21, those are the municipalities that they feel need to be watched. And that's the term that they use currently. Just to highlight to the committee, between this team and my own team, we've got monthly meetings to look at the watched municipalities. So we share information on what we found in the municipalities from a governance, investigations and interventions perspective, and we share with what they've found in terms of finances, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and then also in terms of infrastructure, because the grants and the supply chain management issues live there. These are just the audit outcomes, the historic overview. We did want to show you where we are currently, but apparently the AG will share that with you, and it's still provisional, so we're not allowed to make it available at this stage. We'll allow the AG to share with you the audit outcomes for 23-24. Also, in terms of the Treasury area of focus, it's the municipal debt relief at the moment. You can see what's been written off for each of the municipalities in year 1. And written off means that that comes back into the municipal space for them to use as revenue, which is a good thing from our perspective. At the moment, only Matsikama and Cederberg are continuing to perform very well. Treasury is keeping a very close eye on Beaufort because they've actually missed their rate of collection has really gone down. And we had a conversation in the last financial recovery plan meeting. They really need to up it. So they're at risk at the moment. So we're keeping an eye on them. But Kannaland is our concern at the moment. And I think we'll address their issues because they've missed 2 months. For 2 months, they've gone in arrears in terms of ESCOM payments. But they're now in the development of a financial recovery plan. So all those matters will be living there in the financial recovery plan. So just to show you at a high level there, if we go to the next slide. I've taken most of the slides of Treasury out because it was quite heavy. In terms of municipal performance, so this is the overall status. You'll see that for us, our amber municipalities are 7. Our focus at the moment is on Matsikama and Cederberg in the West Coast, Theewaterskloof in Overberg, Laingsburg and Beaufort in the Central Karoo, and then Kannaland and Knysna in Garden Route. So just in terms of these, if you go to the next slide, this is what we then do. Once we know that our municipalities need support, we put in place Section 154 support plans, or those municipalities that approach us, we actually have the following, and you can see quite a lot of them. And therefore, we've called it operational support plans because they don't want to always be seen as someone who needs support. But sometimes they need provincial support in terms of IGR, just putting me in touch with the right person in ESCOM, national, or whichever else. Or we've got a challenge in terms of waste. We can't get it undone. Could you please come and assist us in terms of that? So that's what our operational support plans then do. Then we've just put in a slide on the coalition governments because we know that that's an active debate currently. And we've got 7 coalitions governing municipalities in the Western Cape currently, and there are 2 district municipalities in terms of that. And then in conclusion, this is just the slide that we wanted to share with you when we looked at our PGM Tech and our next 5-year presentation. We had to look at, so what lives in local government in the next 5 years. Obviously, for us, citizen interface remains at central level. We still have to deepen democracy. I don't think we are where we should be at to keep the citizen almost accountable. In some way, I want to call it accountable, to make sure that government is accountable for what it is that they want, the kind of services that they want from us. Then we're looking at local government elections, and that puts quite a strain on this team when it comes to local government elections. We've got a help desk. We're already in the process, and Kamal can talk to that. Coalitions, and then we've just had a long conversation on the white paper on local government. We've had a whole getting together comments on that at the moment. I think that's going to take quite a long process in terms of the comment phase, public participation phase, to ensure that it's informed properly. I think it's an important conversation if we look at the whole of government and the funding model for government as a whole at the moment. So we've shared those comments with our national colleagues. Our biggest concern at the moment is the decline in local government capacity and capability. And I must be upfront with you. When it comes to municipalities that are struggling, when you're a professional person, you don't necessarily want to go and work in that municipality because it lands on your CV and you don't necessarily want to be associated with that. So I think that's something that we must just keep in the back of our mind. We are looking at a rapid response team. We're looking at our own people that we send in, but then we've got a challenge with our own capacity going forward as well. Then the Khoisan, which Albert is driving, the implementation of that, the disaster resilience, which Colin is currently driving, and then Maurice does the water resilience. And then we're working very closely at the moment with regard to Department of Infrastructure and looking at a municipal infrastructure pipeline versus at a provincial level and how that interfaces with each other. And then obviously our service delivery failures put consistent pressure on us. So in conclusion, Chair, and this just comes from our report for Q3, we are still quite satisfied with the significant achievements of the majority of our municipalities. We obviously have highlighted the 7 that we'll keep an eye on and we consistently support. We are always, as always, resolute in obligations of monitoring and support. Sometimes it puts a lot of pressure on us. We try and see how best we can do it. And then we know that we have to start looking outside of the box for our solutions. We can't always look internally anymore. So we have a lot of conversations at the moment in terms of collaboration with our sister departments, but also in terms of we're looking at private sector like the insurance companies when it looks at infrastructure, the kind of work that Maurice is doing, and even sometimes the kind of work that Nazuku is doing with regard to supporting our citizens with little projects like wheelchairs and things like that. Some of the private sector companies don't mind coming in and doing that. And then we'll continue supporting the 7, but we know that the debate from our stronger municipalities is that why are you supporting municipalities that are not necessarily compliant when we are compliant? Why are you not giving us funding and telling us that you do, showing us that you are supportive of that we're doing well? Now, our fiscus can only be stretched that far. So what we are looking at, there's a Service Excellence Awards that we've put in place at a provincial level, and I know it's going into planning phase now, and that also lives in district and local performance monitoring, but it's being chaired by our Office of the Premier. So they're the ones that take responsibility for it. And based on that, it's not necessarily funding, but at least it tells you that you're doing well. And I see that many of our municipalities that are doing well are also taking part in, the various surveys so that they can actually put their name out there, because it's about investors, showing an investor that please come to me and invest in me. And then a lot of the infrastructure funding, we try and rather use that in our spaces that are compliant, because we know that they've got the capacity to actually spend on it. So, Chair, honourable members, that's the presentation from our side this morning.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trailing. Very interesting. Lots of information, I think, but it's been well covered. I just want to remind colleagues online, if either Member Wessels or Member Johnson, if you'd like to ask a question, just raise your hand and we will come to you as well. We have Honourable Masipa with the question. Sorry, do any of the other officials want to add anything to? No. Okay. Honourable Masipa. Anybody else in the room? Member Stoffel, Member Constable, Member Maria. Okay, we've got a full house inside. So we'll start Member Masipa.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Ms. Trailing, thank you for your presentation. Yeah, I really welcome the Service Excellence Award. Obviously, based on the information that you have shared regarding the challenges that you faced with. You talk about, the non-functional municipalities as such. I think the question for me is obviously, there is an oversight role that needs to be undertaken by the councillors. The training that goes with regarding, councillors, being equipped enough to really fulfill their role, because I think sometimes, in the smaller municipalities, we might not be investing enough, if you can really perhaps just share in terms of how you really induct these councillors to really just make sure that they fulfill their role. And obviously key is to just make sure that their oversight role is effective. As you have heard, when we were in Beaufort West, that, how the official were responding to some of the questions, and then you get a feel that the officials seem to have, given their role to the councillors, and the councillors have given their roles to the official, vice versa. So I just want to get a feel as to how do you really assist them to ensure that they fulfill their role, because I believe that in doing that, you can eliminate most of these issues that we've just outlined. But overall, thank you for your presentation. I think also the work that you are doing to ensure that, we are on top of our game. Thank you very much. Chair.
Thanks, Honourable Masipa. Honourable Stoffel.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite interesting presentation. First of all, I want to register to you, Chair, with the hopes in future it will improve. Chair, we have received the documentation yesterday night of today. And some of us are in a lot of committees. And it's unfair towards us as committee members to receive such critical information a night before the sitting. So I hope with that, we will improve as a committee in terms of, because it's the second time we have received communication before the sitting. And I think in my view, it's unacceptable. And then coming to the presentation, it's difficult even now to engage on the presentation, because remember, as we sit here, we must get a mandate from your political party what to come and say here on this document. And now it's very difficult to express our view in terms of the document. But I will go with the presentation with the view to say, when it comes to the resolutions on the matter, on the document, we should then be given time, Chair, through you, to go and submit our resolutions to the officer. So for proper capturing of that. I hope my request is understandable and implementable. Coming to the presentation, yes, quite a lot of challenges with the municipalities, but mine is based on page, where is it now? Mine is based on page, what is this?
Sorry, your mic is off.
Oh, sorry, Chair. If you, in the first column, there at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bullet 5. In most municipalities currently, as we sit, whether we like to acknowledge that or not, I'm coming to the point that was raised by Member Masipa in terms of councillors. Does the councillors really know the role, and are they really being capacitated to do whatever they're supposed to do, or trained in whatever they're supposed to do? We have noted, obvious in the various municipalities where we come from, there's a lot of interference in the administration from politicians. We must. And as we sit, we've got some municipalities whereby we've got evidence of that, where forensics has been done, everything. I want to check from the monitoring team. the interference in administration and the converse of that. I want to check from you, what is your role when it comes to such allegations and investigations that is be completed, and even recommendations is being made by that? What is your view pertaining that recommendations not been implemented in the municipalities? And then also, if I can go, and when you talk about interference of in the administration, I think at this level we should be honest with each other, and we should name those municipalities. We should name those municipalities where that interference is occurring, so that when we check on your intervention pertaining that at our next monitoring and support meeting, maybe we can then say, no, it's have stopped. No, it's still going on, that interference, so that we can see as a committee how to deal with this interference. Then you go to page 13. You have mentioned in terms of the status of the administration and governance, né? At bullet 1, 2, 3, 4, there were challenges in appointments noted. And that challenges, we don't know what the challenges is. It's whether is the person fit for the position or whatever. I would love to know what is that type of challenges that you have noted. And then also, in terms of the financial recovering plan, I agree with you. I agree fully with you in terms of the assistance there and the support. And but I think we should go deeper in this thing, that most of the municipalities currently, I think, it's been judged by the past. That's my observation. And by being judged by the past, mismanagement. We've got municipalities whereby there's new municipal managers that you can see they know what they are doing. But because of the past of that municipality, unfortunately, that municipality don't get its fair share to do the right thing. I think what we should put emphasis on the municipalities is that there should come a stage whereby we will be able to allocate the municipality the funds that they're supposed to get. And then out of that, we then take this monitoring and overview over the municipalities in terms of checking how they support. And maybe I might be wrong, but it's my view. There's the ANC view to say those municipalities that has been given the fair share, now after the evaluation has been done on that municipalities, those municipalities can then be put under a microscope in terms of improving the service delivery, because now currently those municipalities was crippled by the previous administration, and that poor new municipal manager who's doing his work accordingly, who's finding all irregularities and put it on the table, that poor municipality, that municipal manager must now do wonders with nothing. So I think maybe if the monitoring and evaluation supporting committee could look deeper into that and to say how best, accept the financial recovery plan, how best can we more assist these municipalities? And when it comes to capacity, we should then put emphasis on the municipality, all municipalities, to say people must be appointed, qualified people must be appointed in the rightful post. That thing of being sympathetic over because of a political alliance and whatsoever, it should come to an end, because it's hammering the service delivery. I think the monitoring should then put emphasis on that. I thank you.
Thank you, Member Stoffels. Just very quickly, just in terms of that presentation, and apologies, I'll take responsibility for that, but we are trying our best to make sure that we get those presentations by the Friday before, so that we are able to send those out over the weekend. But I agree with you. I do think that we need to make more of an effort to get those on time.
Thanks, Chair.
Absolutely. If you can just pop your mic off there. Member Constable.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. You see, when it comes to local government and the monitoring of municipalities, that for me is a passion. And to concur with what Member Stoffels is saying, getting the information so late, it's very difficult to prepare yourself. But I will make some comments because it is important for us as a standing committee to make comments and to also to ask questions. My first comment, Chair, and it's nothing to do with what the presentation is giving to us. I will come to the presentation. Is the important role that the MEC is also playing when it comes to the stability of municipalities. And I think as a committee, we need to also speak to the MEC. Certain municipalities are stable, he knows that, but then he still goes in and he destabilizes that specific municipality. And here's my observation. Central Karoo District Municipality appointed an MM, municipal manager, last year. 2-3 weeks ago, the MEC of local government wrote to the municipality saying that that MM is not qualifying. Now, the legal people can tell me if I'm wrong. The MEC have 14 days to respond and to give concurrence, or not even give concurrence, but give a response in that. You now put a stable municipality in a position to go and fight you in a court of law because you are now playing politics in a municipality. So that for me, Chair, from that perspective, I think there need to be a conversation between the committee and the MEC on that. Then with regards to aging infrastructure and vandalism, I think, Doc, you're right, and we had a lot of conversation, Marius, on this issue. Municipalities need support, and your citizen-centric approach, I think for that needs to be a combination of how do we communicate to communities, because communities are not helping municipalities with that. I mean, look what happened in Beaufort municipality. How many millions did we spend on bowls and the establishment and the maintenance of bowls? It's a lot of money. So I think province needs to come up with a plan how to assist municipalities. You can spend a lot of money giving to municipalities, and vandalism and theft will still occur. How do you then assist municipality? Water resilience, I mean, vandalism is a big problem when it comes to water resilience, and also when it comes to electricity, because the cables have been stolen, and I think that is a conversation on its own that we need to have when it comes to municipalities. The 3 municipalities, Doc, that you highlight with regards to the municipal infrastructure grant, are we saying we're going to lose money in that municipalities, or are they on track? Are they going to spend 100% of that municipalities? And I'm glad Beaufort West is showing 98% of spending on that one. Kamal, I'm so glad on that one. But the other 3 municipalities, I mean, 10% on January, it's a lot of money that still needs to be spending. Are we going to spend it? What is province going to do? What kind of assistance are we giving? And what is the real problem? Is it supply chain processes? Is it the appointment of service providers, or is it material that is not on site? What is if you can just give us some insight on that. On the financial recovery plans, I want to link that with the debt relief, because Doc, you say that the 85% is not met when it comes to the debt relief. is that going to be a negative impact on the financial recovery plan of those municipalities? And how do we link? But also, I mean, when it comes to smaller municipalities, isn't it time for province to look into, and I know this is not a financial committee, but isn't it time for local government and finance to look into the financial models of municipalities? Smaller municipalities don't have the capacity and also don't have the revenue base all the time. And what happened in Beaufort West over the last 2 days with regards to how do they fulfill the credit and control, debt control policy, that kind of thing. What is it that we can do from a provincial perspective to support those municipalities? With that said, if we know that that revenue base is not big enough and will not really grow, isn't it time for us to look into other avenues of investment in that municipalities? We were on a oversight visit in Atlantis. We were at an oversight visit in Saldanha. And I'm amazed in how passionate province support those local municipalities. What is it that you do? Even the kind of money that you give, the approach that you have with private investors. Isn't this a model that we can take to enhance private public partnerships in that municipalities, to bring about investments and to broaden that revenue aspects of those municipalities? I'm asking the question because I believe the struggles of those municipalities will not end tomorrow. You will implement an FRP, you will implement a full 139, and then you will come back to an FRP because the finances is just not there. So maybe the thinking of how we do our financial model, I think this is the time for us to do that. We will be in a local government election next year, and I think the same debt council will come about with the same problem. Doc, we had a lot of discussion with declining of capacity and capable administrative leadership in municipalities. I think the legislature is not assisting smaller municipalities, or let me say rural municipalities, because I believe the 7% rural allowance is not just good enough. People don't want to come from metros or from bigger areas to come and work in municipalities. I think that also is a discussion that we need to have. How do we attract capable? And also, if you appoint that capable person, how do you keep him? Beaufort West Municipal Council is currently fighting with an MM, a very good MM, that is getting that municipality out. How do you discipline council that are fighting good? They chased away a capable chief financial officer just because of politics. So you can have that, you can bring them, and then there's a fight within that municipal council. I think that is also the conversation, and I think Salga must be part of that conversation. How do we, when we attract them, how do we keep them in that space of that municipality? This is just some comments. I don't know if there's any questions in it, but I believe I will also with the resolutions give some input. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member. Member Maria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Dr. Greyler for the presentation. I don't want to repeat the questions that have already been covered on many of the questions. Perhaps I just wanted to know from the department, there's a lot of corruption in terms of procurement. Wondered whether they have ever looked at the paper-based process of procurement versus a digitized process, and whether that could possibly assist in preventing perhaps corruption to some degree. in their monitoring, did they find that the paper-based process is perhaps the risk factor? Then I wanted to know in terms of just I believe the Theewaterskloof municipality does not qualify for debt relief. And I think that was mentioned last year as well in terms of the 10 indicators. So they haven't even met 4 of the indicators. Just wanted to understand what was the 4, you said that they met 4 indicators. Do you know specifically which 4 indicators did the Theewaterskloof meet? And then just in terms of coalitions, I don't want to say too much about it, but I wanted to know whether there's a lack of legislation, in your opinion, to bring about more stability when it comes to coalitions. Is it over politicized at municipal level? Should municipalities have less politics and more service delivery? You know, or is there a lack of legislation to help with creating a more stable municipal environment that is supposed to focus mostly on service delivery, nothing else? Thank you.
Thanks very much, members. It's quite a lot. I'm just going to chuck a little bit more in, if that's okay. But I mean, I think just also to respond to a couple of the points that have been raised, and you know, Member Constable, as I mentioned when we arrived in the meeting today, it would have been so great if you were able to attend that oversight. I know you had challenges and you weren't able to, but I think there were so many of the points that you raised that were really thoroughly discussed, and in particular when it comes to the issues around public-private partnerships and the financial recovery plan for Beaufort West, and balancing those two between getting the financial recovery plan implemented to get the municipality as a stable level and trying to attract investment at too early a stage where it could potentially collapse. And that was a very, I think, nuanced discussion. And I'm sure the officials can expand on that. But I think, Mr. Kutsia, maybe what we could do as well for Member Constable and Member Marais is to get that financial recovery plan, because it was a finance committee presentation on Beaufort West, because I think it really provides a lot of insight as to what the MEC or the minister, correctly titled, is implementing in terms of those interventions. And I do think, I don't know if I would agree in terms of suggesting that that the minister is intentionally destabilizing municipalities, but I do think there are certainly challenges when it comes to intervening in a way that doesn't upset what is already quite a delicate balance. Just in terms of a couple of the other issues that I thought I would raise, when you mentioned the local government elections, obviously it is a time of flux for all municipalities. Having served in municipality myself, as many other members have as well, it is a period where things become quite tricky. What steps is the department able to take in terms of monitoring the use of public resources for politicking? It is, again, quite a tricky balance between an administration putting forward their successes, and I think quite rightly so, and kind of blatant use of resources for political purposes, i.e. hosting political rallies and things like that. Is that monitoring, would you say, effective enough? And do you think that there are adequate systems in place to ensure that that doesn't take place? Obviously, the IEC is involved as well and plays a significant role, but just from the province's perspective, in terms of monitoring that. Then, a lot of the challenges that you've mentioned, and I think it all centers around this amendment bill as well. How important would you say the amendment bill is in terms of increasing the efficiencies around some of these challenges that you've mentioned? And then I think just coming on to what Member Constable mentioned, I do think it's important for us to try and understand more as to why the expenditure for Cape Agulhas and Saldanha Bay in particular is so low,
It does, I mean, Witzenberg's at least at 30%, but you know, there must be a reason, and if we can just maybe expand as to what is holding those two municipalities back. And then you mentioned the complex or cumbersome supply chain management processes. And I'm very glad that that was mentioned, because one of the things that does tend to come up quite often is when we do have projects and we have new innovative ideas coming through from the private sector, getting those through into municipalities becomes particularly tricky because of these supply chain management processes in place. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they have to register, you know, as a service provider beforehand, and, you know, delicate balance between an unsolicited bid and, you know, a proper tender process and things like that. So, I mean, that I assume is a type of red tape that hopefully can start to be dealt with going forward. And then the last one is just where you mentioned Kalaland municipality. You've said the bulk payments to Eskom are more than 2 months in arrears. Why is that? If they've got the funds available that have been dispersed to them in terms of their debt relief, what are the reasons that are being given for them not paying Eskom? Because it just seems bizarre that, you know, that payment just wouldn't go through, particularly taking into consideration the ramifications of not doing so. Thanks. We have member Vessels. Sorry, we're doing lots of questions, but let's try just get them all over and done with for the first round. Member Vessels.
Hi, good morning, Chair. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I've just got a couple of questions. Firstly, thank you very much for the presentation. It is very worrying and insightful at the same time. In terms of the department, and I just want to understand what it is in terms of the support that we provide and the process that is then run. Do we as a government have a I don't know, contracted municipal managers and CFOs, or ex-municipal managers and ex-CFOs that we then that we are able to send into municipalities when we see that there is difficulty in terms of decision making? So I think that was my first question. And that really speaks to my second question, which is the time frame before interventions occur. So, I mean, if we typically take a town like a municipality like Kanaland and even Beaufort West, I think it's enormously difficult to turn around a municipality once they sit on 70% collection rate and 76% non-revenue water collection. I think the amount of time that we have to invest at that stage, you know, it is not maybe a 1 or a 2 term turnaround strategy, you know, at that stage. So is there a way that legislation or something does allow quicker intervention, just so that we don't get ourselves to a phase where citizens are suffering because of inadequate service delivery for a period of 5 years plus. Then in terms of, yeah, if a municipality goes into such, you know, if certain things are triggered, specifically talking to slide 21, where we saw some fairly stable municipalities hitting 3 or more indicators that might require intervention now. Now, if we look at those municipalities, and we should put it in a geographical percentage towards the Western Cape, you know, I think that is then some serious cause of concern. That was pretty much the whole of the Garden Route, the whole of the Karoo up to Oeverberg, Langeberg, that area, which is then sort of giving us flashing the red lights. My question is then the monitoring of the draft budgets as well as the adjustment budgets. Is there a way that the department speaks to the municipality and really delve down into what the proposed budgets are for those municipalities and the split in terms of infrastructure, electrotechnical, all of those services? Because we have over the past seen municipalities cutting a lot of ribbons and building a lot of nice to haves, while where basic infrastructure needs are going down the drain. Is there a way that one cannot put a hold, or not a hold, but more insight into the proposed budgets and or adjustment budgets, to subtly guide them to a better place? And then I want to agree with some of the previous speakers with regards to the council decisions and council resolutions that has been taken. And I was wondering if the department have some or other decision barometer or some or other meter where one can physically take the council decisions and understand whether or not the council is consistently making above average decisions with the money at their disposal. In terms of the long-term financial plans, etc. Especially for the next year, leading up to a municipal election, councils. I was in a council for just over 8 years. There's some interesting decision suggestions. And at the end of the day, this falls onto the lap of the province and ultimately the national fiscus. And I was wondering if one cannot implement something like that, to sort of see where council decisions, what they base it on, and how that fits into long-term viability. And then and again, just not a hypothetical question, but just a municipal managers and CFOs. That is, especially in outside of the metros and in secondary cities, is becoming a huge problem to fill, purely because of the decisions that councils are making and the risk that they run as professional people, as you said. What is the protective measures that the department gives to senior administration when certain member constable mentioned the CFO and this and that that was chased. How do we facilitate that? Because if it goes on the way that it is going on now, we can be sure of one thing, and that is that most small municipalities will not have CFOs and municipal managers, because it is not worth the reputation, the reputational damage for those professionals. And is there a way that the department can maybe assist with that? That is just, I might have another bite at the cherry, but that is just for now. Thanks, Chairperson.
And to round off our full round of questions, we have Member Johnson online as well. So Member Johnson, not to prejudice you, I will give you an opportunity for the final question, after which we will go to answers. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be less than a minute. I do not have any questions. I just wanted to make a comment. Just firstly, I did email the members our presentation that we received in Beaufort from Provincial Treasury around the Beaufort financial recovery plan. I think that the conversation.
Sorry, Member Johnson. Can you just, you started when you were talking about the presentation financial recovery plan, you just dropped off for a second. Can you just go back there?
I'll try again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. There we go. I just wanted to start off by saying that I did email Member Constable and Mare the presentation from Provincial Treasury that we got in Beaufort West last week. I think that presentation actually touched on a lot of the things that we discussed today. It started out with being a finance meeting, but I think it was good that it was a local government cluster visit because I think we touched on a lot of these things. Just in terms of a lot of questions that was raised now by members here, I think it's important to always keep in mind, and it was a conversation that we had throughout the entire visit week, to say that there's local governments for a specific reason, and I think it's always important to remember that as provincial government, there's only so much that the provincial government can do when it comes to intervention within local governments. And at the end of the day, local governments, mayors, municipal councils, all of those people have to take responsibility for the actions or the council resolutions that they implement. So I know with Provincial Treasury, it's something different in terms of interventions, but I think it's also just important to always keep in mind what exactly is the function of a local government when it comes to these sorts of service delivery related issues, to say what the role of the provincial government is in terms of when to intervene in local governments. I think it's just something to always keep in mind when we ask these sorts of questions. And then just lastly, I don't want to make it sound like one of those typical things that members say, but I just really want to thank the department for this presentation. I think it's about time that we get these sorts of presentations that puts the picture exactly as it is, without trying to come here with a fancy presentation and not wanting to say what the actual status is of municipalities out there, and actually giving the harsh truths. So just thank you for that. And that is my only comments. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Member Johnson. Colleagues and officials, I am going to just call for a 5-minute comfort break to give officials opportunity to just collate briefly what your answers are going to be. If you want to quickly grab a coffee or bottle of water, and we will reconvene at 10:15. Somebody said you could stay chat. Please, you guys take this. Okay. Yeah, I think it's what we discussed. Yeah, that's that. Stand up last time as well when we had the speaker in the chamber, and they had that they wanted to be. I think it was just a weights and weapons speaker.
Sunday I was giving a little bit on the Thursday. Yeah. Okay.
It should.
And then maybe start zooming specifics.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. For the normal time.
You keep on it. That's good.
That one is good.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
You know, specifically.
If we really check the teaching practice.
Yeah. As a
Starting to
getting young.
get
That was the communication.
and we're into the buildings. Man, I don't think that's what we are really safe so we stands to okay.
Nou, dat is ook wel de basis. Nou, nu, zodat deze kleren vaak weer iets en vers met mensen die vertellen dat alles hoofd aan de vingers vooral.
Johannes, laat ek apologize upfront dat dit geen skuld is dat jy nie die aanbieding gekry het nie.
Ja.
Maar sekere goed wat ek intern moet bestuur het.
Die
So, dit is baie jammer.
Partykeer is dit issue, partykeer is dit.
So,
Ja, maar ag ek sal ook maar nie toe kom. En ek weet hoe dit gaan. Jy die ou doen 'n presentation, maar dit is nie net vir jou soos dit gaan. Ek bedoel daar's 'n hiërargie wat hier moet gaan en heeltemal reg so. Maar ek sal in ons briewe vir die toekoms maar sien dat ons dit teen middagete Vrydag kry, jy weet. Dan weet ons
maar het jy nog die kans gehad nie? Dit seker goed so verander.
Ja,
So dis
ja.
ook so.
Yes,
So dis nog 'n hele span.
en die ding is ook, ek het dit gekry, dan kommunikeer ek eers met die voorsitter en sê, okay, is dit reg, kan ek so uitstuur en so, en hy reageer ook nie dadelik terug nie. En dan is daar ook weer 'n uur of 2 vertraag.
En ek sien jy het seker met jou een gedeel wat ons toe dan nog na die tyd 'n paar slides van toestel dat jy nie te veel slides
Ja,
van dit uitgehaal. Maar nou is ek jammer ek het, want ons 'n slide wat ek nou soek. Sonder die 4 en die 3 vrae, maar ons het gedeel. Ja, ek dink daar's 'n hele slide wat dan net wys wat die aspekte. Okay.
But then it's the investigation to the code.
That's not really.
That's fine.
Yeah, this one, yeah.
This one. Is one that got all kind of arguments, which they should put against. I had a question in this presentation.
Absoluut kan de balans voor iets en die nieuws zeg maar.
Yes, it's going to be a big one. Was like that many speakers. Being given access to nothing really space.
You going to tell? So it's good as waste.
All right. Cool. Have we got everybody? Yes, I think so. Member Johnson and Member Vessels back online. Give us a thumbs up if you are ready to roll. There we go. Thumbs up, Member Johnson, Member Vessels. There he is. Okay, great. All right. So we are reconvening the meeting. And Dr. Railing, I'll hand over to you and your team.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just start, and then I've asked Kamal to deal with council functionality, administration and governance, Gary to deal with interventions, and then Marius to deal with anything around infrastructure specifically, because they work with it directly. I think I'm just going to start off just because there is an overlap between the training question that we've received. I think we must always know that a municipality is the first port of call when it comes to training of their officials or their councillors. So that which they can't do, they reach out to us to assist with. So we do have a seasonal school that we do on an annual basis with the Hans Seidel Foundation. the focus of the school at the moment was consequence management. And we found it to be quite surprising for councillors because they could actually share what the challenges are that they've got with the municipal officials and how to actually conduct the process. So I think we'll continue rolling that out on an annual basis. We can only take about 190 in, given the costing with regard to that. Then we've also rolled out an MMC, which is the Municipal Minimum Competence Qualification. We did a pilot for 20 councillors. We've just finalized our pilot. We are looking maybe at a phase 2 of it, based on the lessons learned that we're getting currently. I also just want to say that we're in close contact with SALGA. So at the end of elections, normally there is a whole SALGA orientation or induction session for councillors, where they take them through the legislative process. They even do for PR councillors, and I think we're even trying to roll it down now to get councillors to understand, for example, how infrastructure works, decisions around that work. So that I think will be in touch again after Kamal in 2026. But I also just want Kamal to touch on it because we do the transversal kind of programs, and Kamal, they do the more hands-on when it comes to the councils or administration. So Kamal, let me just hand over to you with regard to the questions posed.
Thanks, Dr. Greding. Chair, with your indulgence, I mean, there's certain questions that are obviously directed within my fields. So if I can answer them based on what was asked as well, if that's okay. Thank you. Just with regard to the training and the capacitation of the councillors, Honourable Member Masipa indicated, I mean, what is the role that the department play in capacitating those councillors? Over the period of 2024, for example, we've had various trainings, and this focuses on various fields and disciplines for councillors themselves. So, for example, we had a training with Matsikam on the 16th of July, 2024, dealing just with the draft rules of order and then the appointment regulations as well. Beaufort West, we had a training on the 24th and 25th of July, focusing on the draft standard rules of order, appointment regulations, roles and responsibilities of councillors, which we extensively cover, ethics, anti-corruption, and then the code of conduct as well. We then had a further training with Beaufort West on the 30th of August, 2024 as well. Neisner, we had an extensive 2-day training. We conducted a training in March 2024, and it was a request by the executive mayor, the then executive mayor, indicating that if the department can come back as well. So after the March training, we came back and we conducted a 2-day training on the 3rd and the 4th of September 2024. The 1 day was with the officials. We just felt that we needed to, besides the fact that we have given them training, it was imperative to go and reiterate the prescriptive provisions of the regulations, the appointment regulations. So what we did is we split it. The official that's an expert in that field conducted a full training with the administration officials that are responsible for advising council. And in the second day, we again had a further training with the councillors again pertaining to that. We then conducted a training, and most of these trainings are also conducted in collaboration with SALGA. So we've now gone into a collaboration partnership with SALGA as well. So there was, for example, a full extensive training that was done with Matsikam on the 21st of October 2024, and covering fields such as oversight, accountability, anti-corruption, integrity management, roles and responsibilities, and then obviously also governance and public participation as well. We also conducted trainings with Theewaterskloof, which is a recent one. It was based on the request by the council. So on the 27th, 28th January, my team went down and we conducted trainings on various fields based on their request as well. We've got an upcoming training that we're conducting now for 2 days, which is on the 11th and the 12th of March with Kanlan municipality as well. So that will be conducted with the officials as well as the councillors as well. There's a question pertaining to, There's a question pertaining to the interference, and Honourable Member Stoffels raised the question. You know, there's a lot of interference in the administration. These are obviously all highlighted in the code. So these are sort of elaborated upon in what is permissible, what is not permissible for councillors to do as well. They also obviously conducted in terms of the seasonal school trainings as well. So those items are also extensively covered in relation to that as well. I think pertaining to the fact that Honourable Member Stoffels has raised, if a recommendation is not implemented, then the Minister will have to act in terms of item 16.5, which indicates then he appoints his own committee, as he's done with Knysna municipality now. So, which I can't go into detail because we're still in the process of it as well. There was a further question regarding challenges in appointments. And the problem with appointments and municipalities are having challenges, and I think I need to just be upfront with you. Legislation. There are two sets of legislations which are now running parallel to one another. The one hand, you got the Municipal Systems Act, which has the prescribed qualifications, work-related experiences, competencies, etc. Then you got the MFMA regulations. And now you got the MFMA regulations where the municipality's annual budget, right, is, we're talking CPI index adjusted, is below $1 billion. So the requirements there equates to the Municipal Systems Act or the appointment regulations. However, as soon as the municipality goes beyond that threshold, right, there's a different set of requirements, which is the higher threshold, your NQF level 8, 7 years experience, in contrast to 5 years middle management experience. That's the problem we're having at the moment now. And municipalities are struggling with that as well. On an ongoing basis, municipalities are facing the challenges of filling critical posts. And I think it wasn't a question posed, but I'm going to say it. I mean, you look at, there is such a need for directors in technical services. So there are various vacancies existing in municipalities, just particularly for that post, because of the fact that, I mean, the upper limits, which plays a big factor as well, and secondly, the high threshold set by the legislation as well. What we're doing about that, we're now working on a strategy whereby we need to also just follow an IGR process before we do go and propose any challenges towards the Minister of Finance. But I mean, at the end of the day, we are going to be proposing to the National Treasury that they look at aligning the regulations so that the two legislations are aligned. And that's because of the challenges that the MFMA regulations are imposing on municipalities. There was a question pertaining to Honourable Constable. It was pertaining to CKDM and the appointment. There's definitely, and categorically, I need to just state that, I mean, it wasn't politicking, right? It was an objective analysis conducted by the team and the legal officials. And we reached our conclusion and we made our recommendations to the Minister. I can't go further into it because the matter is pending further possible litigation as well. I think I've covered the aspect relating to capacity in the administration. I've responded to that pertaining to the fact that, I mean, the two legislations and the high thresholds set by the legislation, and then obviously the upper limits as well. There was a question pertaining to coalitions by Honourable Member Marie. There is currently the legislation and the proposed bills that one is now being that is being now sort of developed and was open for comment. For example, the Municipal Structures Amendment Bill is looking at tightening instability or preventing instability with regard to municipalities that are in a coalition as well. So, for example, making the coalition agreement at the outset binding. There are also obviously regulations that may also be published by the National Minister pertaining to that as well. So we've provided extensive comments on that, which was, I think the due date was the 28th of February. We provided comments on that one as well. Yeah, I think I've covered most. Just regarding the metro, there was the question on the MMs and CFOs, and what measures can we put in place to protect MMs or CFOs, and I'm presuming that it's related to, say, victimization of MMs or CFOs, etc., etc. I mean, this has occurred. I mean, in reality, it has taken place. I mean, and the stance and the standpoint is obviously always the MEC will indicate that it's the official or the incumbent needs to challenge that himself or herself. We've got legal advice and views pertaining to local standard minister getting involved in that one. But I think a typical example would be what happened in Swellendam, and the MM taking the council to court, and obviously the judgment was delivered in a favor. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson.
Thanks. I'm assuming you're going to say that you can't hear very clearly. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. Can we just lean a bit closer in, Mr. Birch? Thanks.
I don't think this mic's working, but this one appears to be.
There we go. Thanks.
Do I need to repeat?
Member Johnson, did you pick up any of that, or do you need Mr. Birch to start again?
No, it's fine, Chair. I just lost the last few seconds. Thanks.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the financial recovery plan, we are reliant on National Treasury for the development of that plan. And specifically with Kannaland, it's unfortunate that Kannaland previously hasn't been complying and cooperating with National Treasury in the development of that plan. And I think should and had they been complying, I think we would be, as a collective, both national and provincial government, in a better position to assist and support the municipality. At this stage, they are complying and cooperating with National Treasury, though, so I must state that. But that delay, though, unfortunately, might impact on their ability to comply with the debt relief program. Then the question from Honourable Marais, the chairperson, relating to what steps the department can take to prevent the use of resources for municipal resources for politicking during the election sort of cycle. We do rely heavily on, and during this period, on whistleblowers, and both inside the municipality itself, as well as the members of the community, to report any such allegations. Those would then be investigated. And during certain previous election cycles, we have seen an increase in the number of allegations that are reported, sort of the pre and post election cycle. And if funds are, of course, used for such purposes, it would constitute a regular expenditure, which then could be recovered in terms of the MFMA. So we're pushing quite strongly on that, and working together with Provincial Treasury to strengthen that municipalities are recovering that irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We've also seen recent court cases relating to that as well. which is having an impact on that area as well. So, and then there are certain reporting obligations on various officials, the accounting officers, to report such instances as well. Then the question from Honourable Vessels online. Yeah, just in relation to whether or not we have contracted sort of previous CFOs and MMs who can be sent in. I think that's the essentially the rapid response team that Dr. Grayling was talking about. And then we're also currently looking at amending the Western Cape Monitoring and Support of Municipalities Act. I've presented previously to this committee in relation to that, and just some of those changes that would actually allow for, and it leads into your next question as well on
Chair, we've just lost sound.
Yes, mine is working.
Okay.
Here we go.
It's me.
-1 point.
He gets the next question. Yeah, then, yeah, whether or not it is more difficult to turn around a municipality once they reach a certain stage. We've indicated that quite a few times, I think, to this committee, and there's research on that as well that's also been presented to previous committees. The longer and the worse the state of a municipality and the decline, the harder it is to actually turn that municipality around, and the longer it takes us to turn the municipality around. And the question was specifically, is there a way for legislation to achieve quicker interventions? Again, one of the measures that we're looking at here under the Western Cape Monitoring and Support of Municipalities Amendment Bill is to include provisions for proactive monitoring of municipalities. For example, that allows the minister to designate provincial support officers to monitor compliance, identify risks, suggest improvements, and essentially just to proactively assist with detection of fraud, corruption, maladministration, identify what is going wrong in the municipality, and then alert the municipal council to what is going wrong, where there can be improvements, where there are risks, what mitigation measures could be taken to identify that or to address those things. Yeah, so there is legislative interventions that we are proposing in relation to that, and maybe I can just suggest that we maybe send that that presentation that to member Vessels as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Burcham. My sincere apologies for all of the technical hitches you had during your answers. We are still struggling with very piercing feedback. So if that persists, we might have to take a break and try to fix that, because it's not very pleasant. But let's see if we can finish the questions without having to do so.
Good. Thank you, Chair. Honourable Member.
I'm sorry to do this, but I really don't want us to interrupt your. I don't think it's your mic. I think there's something else. There's feedback somewhere. Mr. Kutsia, are you able to?
Yes, okay. Chair, yes, Honourable Constable, I cannot agree with you more. one would surely have to go in with a holistic, citizen-centric approach when you want to attack vandalism. And what we're looking at is a parallel sort of approach between awareness programs and other strategies to attack this problem. So the awareness programs are going via the various kinds of social media. And then obviously we've got to work with our partners like our ward committees, our ward councillors, our CDWs, as well as other non-profit or community-based organizations. And what we want to do is we want to instill a culture of people understanding that these assets that are vandalized belongs to you. It's yours. Nobody else's. It belongs to you, not necessarily seeing it as belonging to the municipality. And therefore your responsibility to look after it and to protect those assets. And then by using practical examples to illustrate to them what is the cost incurred by the municipality to then go and fix these vandalized infrastructure, and that those funds could have been used to actually provide better services to you. So you are basically not doing yourself a favor by doing this, because at the end of the day, you will be the person that is going to suffer, and not even going further than to say that, you know, you're not going to receive your road upgraded or your street lights upgraded or water supply upgraded sooner, but you will most definitely have to wait much longer. And then we also want to link it obviously to the downstream impact that it will have on trying to retain current business as well as to attract new investment. And obviously the linkages between that and in growing the economy and creating jobs. And we want to go in as a joint force with all our stakeholders. Here I can mention SAPS, the police forums, justice, water affairs, ESCOM, and also, like I mentioned before, the non-profit organizations, partners like Santam, and we're looking for more. And we believe by doing that, we will be able to really make a significant impact. Okay, then the question on the MEC expenditure and the reason for that in Cape Agulhas and Saldanha and Witzenberg, I can, with all honesty, say it's all due to reasons outside of the control of these municipalities. In the case of Cape Agulhas, for instance, the tender closing date had to be extended twice due to bidders having problems, you know, internal fights and having grievances, and therefore say, you know, please give us more time and more time. Obviously then delaying by when these consultants could start to work and having then the downstream impact on when the construction can actually start. In the case of Saldanha, it was a delay in the registration of the MIG project due to prolonged comments that we had to get from the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. That really delayed that registration, and you cannot start to spend funds on a sports project. It was a sports project in Langeville before you've got a project registered, and the relevant sector department must give their approval. In the case of Witzenberg, it's the T-Rox Kloof Park water pipeline. There, the contractor was appointed well within time. So there was nothing wrong with the planning of the municipality. They just in June, July experienced that heavy rainfalls and storms. So obviously they couldn't go on site. So the site handover was delayed. I hope I answered all the questions that was posed to me. Okay, maybe the last one, in terms of bringing in the private sector, we all know we've got to start looking at that. And we want to leverage on the limited funds, the grants that we've got, to try and attract private sector. And here there's various models we can look at. Everybody is talking about the blended financing model that we're currently piloting through our program called CIDIF. We've received 153 million from the Swiss and the Danish. That's going to unlock 3 billion rands of investment in infrastructure. So that is the way to go. But there's various other kinds of ways to do it as well. Public-private partnerships, and obviously looking at community-based organizations like maybe business chambers or rural communities that wants to come in. Then yes, it is very true that, you know, if a municipality is not credit worthy and doesn't have a good audit track record, it's going to be difficult to attract the private sector. But there are ways and means that we can work around, especially where we've got the financial recovery plans. If there's progress, we can move in earlier. Then there's also models where you basically ring fence a certain service. So the income of that service is directly going to the service provider. Another example is typically used is build, operate, and transfer. So say, for instance, you basically outsource a certain service. You ask the private sector to come and operate and maintain your water treatment works, and you basically are buying a product and not an asset.
Chair, can I just take? I see there's some questions that have not been answered.
No problem.
So just we'll take up the proposal in terms of the decision barometer. Obviously, our monitoring is at a legal compliance level at the moment, so we haven't gone down to that kind of detail. In terms of the question on the slide 21, I think we'll just give you the detail because it's a provincial treasury slide. It's quite a busy slide, so you can see exactly which areas, the 4 that are triggered. So I think that's what we'll do. Just quickly checking if there's anything else that we've missed. And if there's anything else that we've missed, we're more than willing to share it after the fact. Thanks.
Thanks. Colleagues, we have gone over time, so I'm not going to take another round of questions. If there are specific follow-ups, please send those through. And the department has also committed to providing some further information that is outstanding. But I think it has been fascinating. And thank you, colleagues, for the quality of questions. Very good questions. It really started to build a network of understanding how things, for instance, like the supply chain management processes that you spoke about, tie in directly with issues that we have in terms of expenditure, and you know how this really needs to be addressed in a kind of holistic approach. But thank you, and thank you for the presentations and the great answers as well. Colleagues, with that, before we move on, just in terms of the Support to Municipalities Bill, which was discussed at the previous meeting, we did commit, myself and Mr. Kutsia, to look into the process of conducting public hearings. And we've looked quite specifically in terms of our finances and budget. Obviously, we are not the only government department that's pressed financially, but we are a little bit under the pump, so to speak, when it comes to how much money we have at our disposal. So we are recommending that we do conduct a public participation process. We conduct one physical public hearing, which then doubles up as a hybrid opportunity as well for participants from across the country. That way we are across the country, across the province. That way we are able to
have a physical meeting, but also include other members. It's going to be challenging for us to conduct numerous public engagements on this across the province. So that is the proposal. I'm going to put it to the committee, and we can then adopt that at the end of our meeting as resolutions. Thank you very much to the officials from Department of Local Government. If you wish to leave, you're more than welcome to. Thank you. Welcome to our officials who have arrived to discuss the marine oil pollution bill. If you could just, we have met before, but if you can just reintroduce yourselves and state your name for the record. Thanks.
Morning, everyone. I'm Kayleen Motor from Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Planning and Policy Coordination Directorate.
Good morning, everyone. Natasha Davis-Volmerans, also from Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Directorate Pollution and Chemicals Management.
Thanks so much. So what we are considering now are the comments and the response by the Department of Transport on the Standing Committee's proposals in terms of the marine oil pollution legislation. And then after that, we will go on to adopting our negotiating mandate, which will then go to the National Assembly NCOP in terms of the deliberations going forward. So I'm going to hand over to you, Ms. Wilmrance, I think, first. I don't know who's going to go first. And if you can just take us through some of the responses and any other relevant feedback, and we can then have some inputs after that. Thank you.
Yeah, so since our last meeting where we presented our comments, we did find that there was an updated version of the bill and noted that, well, actually all of our comments were accepted into the revised version, all except, I think there was one which related to I need to just check what it was. But it was a very general issue that we felt it would. No, that one's been accepted. I think that we'll have to ask the Department of Transport for that. I know there was just one very general comment that we didn't, that wasn't included into the bill. But I think we also got the sense that it would, with that committee that will be formed when you have these incidents, would then be taken up through that process and doesn't necessarily have to be stated explicitly in the bill. So I think from our side, we are, we are happy with that our comments have been acknowledged and accepted in that way.
Sorry. One of the things that was emphasized during that previous meeting was that enforcement is properly undertaken and followed through on, and that there is a chain of accountability that exists for those who are found wanting when it comes to marine oil pollution, particularly when it comes to the environmental impacts thereof. So I'm satisfied that that has been included, and we will then obviously discuss that further when we get to the negotiating mandate afterwards. Colleagues, is there anything else that anybody wants to raise? Yes, sorry.
Jane,
good to see you.
My apology. I was a bit late calling the gentleman. He's from SAMSA.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, Mr. Ntuli couldn't attend.
All right.
From the Department of Transport, so they
Okay.
summoned him to
You walked in at a perfect time. So can you just introduce yourself?
There we go. Morning. My name is Vernon Keller. I'm the Deputy Chief Operations Officer for SAMSA.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. I assume you have this document. Okay, that's fine. One of the questions that we had while you open it up is in terms of the responses, most of the comments and suggestions that have come through from Western Cape government have been noted and accepted. There are two that state they have been noted and will be reviewed. Can you just explain, if you're able to, the difference between the two and how we'd find out when that review is concluded? Because obviously that's will impact whether or not we deem our comments to have been properly taken into consideration. And then we can maybe take some other questions after that, just to fill you in. And another thing that's very important is that the committee felt quite strongly that issues of enforcement and accountability when it comes to those involved in contravening the legislation should be beefed up to make sure that we don't just deal with spills when they take place, but we find the source of the spills and we are able to take direct action against those individuals and businesses. So just in terms of that first question, if you can just, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I just want to know, in the ones, which two are you actually referring to that it was the Western Cape's comments?
It's on page 4.
Are we talking about the risk assessments or specific contingency plans?
Yeah, on page 7 as well. So where it says in that side block, comment is noted and accepted, there are a couple that say comment is noted and will be reviewed. So just in terms of the process with regards to that, if you're able to. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so what the Department of Transport would normally do is they would obviously take these comments. Once they have all of it collated, they would share those comments with SAMSA like they've done at the present moment. And then depending on what those comments is, they'll either have a discussion with SAMSA in terms of what our thoughts are on those points raised. We would give our input. That's when the Department of Transport will do its final consideration and decide whether it is feasible to amendable according to those comments or not, and run that past the state law advisors.
Ms. Vormer answered, and I assume that covers then that question. I suppose we're still not 100% clear then whether or not those will be accepted, but I do think it's important for us then to keep track of that. Colleagues, do we have any other inputs? Member Masipa, did you have your hand up?
Sorry, Chair. No, I'm covered. I just wanted to say that Joan must maybe just decrease the what you call the so zoom out or zoom in. No, zoom in. That's much better. Thanks. But I'm covered, Chair. Thanks.
Chairperson?
Yes.
As part of the committee's negotiating mandate, we can still include it, although they said they will review it, just to emphasize the point again, because this will go to the various or to the select committee, and maybe they look at it at a different angle as the department. So,
all right. Okay, so I mean, look, if we don't have any other questions on this process, sorry, Mr. Keller.
Sorry, Chair, for interjecting. I could perhaps just give you a brief overview of what those items mean, and that may help create some clarity.
Fantastic. Seeing as you've come all the way here, let's make use of you. So go for it, please. Thanks.
Okay, so the risk assessments, what in essence that means is from a national oil spill contingency plan, every terminal that has a pipeline that leads into the sea, every port that has a pipeline that leads into the sea that could potentially cause a spill, needs to do a site risk assessment. that site risk assessment would have to deal obviously with whatever the major risk is for that particular site, what mitigation measures they have in place for those sites. And that would be like, do we have oil spill equipment? Do we have oil spill providers on our contact list? You know, those kind of things. How are they going to deal with that in emergency? And then that is supposed to be sent to SAMHSA. SAMHSA will be the custodian of these risk assessments, and we would be responsible to actually review those risk assessments to make sure that we are happy with these. And then I think it's every 5 years, if I remember correctly, we'd have to obviously go through a renewal process. And we have 2 years from the release of the bill till the consolidation of all those risk assessments to make sure that every port and terminal would comply with those risk assessments. Those risk assessments are used by what we call the incident management organization. In essence, that's the incident team that responds to any incident. It consists out of private stakeholders, government stakeholders, local municipalities, disaster management, SAMHSA, TMPA. They will help with the review of those risk assessments, and if there's any amendments that is required, then obviously it'll go back to that particular terminal or port to clarify and add to those risk assessments. The site contingency plans, in essence, that is how do we deal with an oil spill. That forms part of not just the cleanup of the oil, but it's also about how do you deal with any potential wildlife contamination that you have. I don't know if you recall the Ultra Galaxy that happened last year off the west coast of this province. In essence, it deals with all of that associated risk, the cleanup of the beaches, the long-term rehabilitation of animals as well as beaches and all of that. So the site contingency plan is supposed to lead into the province contingency plan and then into the national oil spill contingency plan for these service providers to actually deal with pollution incidences. In terms of the marine well pollution response equipment inventory, in essence, the reference there to the MARPOL Convention, that is the International Marine Pollution Prevention Convention from the International Maritime Organization. That is the mandatory instrument that the IMO, in essence, says ships must comply with. That deals with ships' equipment, response mechanisms, certification, port state control inspections, flag state control inspections and surveys. So that is what the MARPOL is. I'm sure the comment about that is not really clear in the bill. I don't think the DOT would have a problem to actually just add that definition into the bill because it is relevant.
Colleagues, questions, comments? Anybody online?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Keller, for coming through. I really appreciate that. Ms. Walmart, anything that the two of you would like to add further? No. Okay.
I think for us it was a lot of, like you indicated, is points of clarity. So a lot of those things aren't very, they're not clearly defined. Like you explaining the contingency plans and also the review panels. So they will say the review panels, but it's not clear who. You just explain now who would be on those review panels, but it's just a matter of clarifying those things in the actual bill, I think. Then yeah.
Thanks. Well, good. Okay. Anything further from your side, Mr. Keller, in closing?
I could also give you an overview of the polluter pay principle, if you would like.
That would be fantastic, actually. Yes, could you do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
So in essence, what it means is that in terms of polluter pay, there's a combination of various acts that filter through to this one. For example, currently we have the Control and Civil Liability Act that deals similarly with a polluter pay principle. And the same goes with the OPRC bill. The OPRC bill just gives us a little bit more power in terms of how do we deal with it. But the polluter pay principle is, in essence, if the guy caused the pollution, whoever caused it must be held responsible and all costs must be recovered from that polluter. So that will include the rehabilitation of any wildlife, cleanup of the beaches, long-term rehabilitation, like in the case of the Ultra Galaxy on the West Coast, the removal of the wreck and putting the beach to the way it was before. It could also lead to any commercial losses that any fishermen or tourist industry have. Potentially, they could lodge a claim against the responsible party, and then through the insurances, the polluter must actually settle all those costs. So that's the polluter pay principle in terms of the recovery of costs.
Thanks very much. All right. Colleagues, I think we will then move on to our next item, and thank you to Mr. Kedder and the officials. You are welcome to stick around for our discussions on the negotiating mandate if you would like to. But apart from that, you are welcome to leave and get a cup of coffee or whatever you wish to do. All right. But thank you very much for all of your efforts. Okay, colleagues, we can then go on to question 6.6, which is the adoption of the negotiating mandate. So as we are aware, our comments, or the comments from the department, and obviously our inputs from last week, those have been accepted, as has been explained now by Mr. Kedder and the team. We haven't had anybody thus far coming out in opposition to the bill. So can I take it that the committee is in support of the bill, taking into consideration the amendments and the inputs that have been made by the Western Cape? Is there anybody in opposition? Are there any proposed amendments to the legislation? All right. Okay. So, yes, Member Masipa.
Honorable Chair,
Yeah.
I move to adopt for the adoption of the changes that have been made.
All right. Seconder, Member Constable. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so we are reading the report in for record purposes. It's the report of the Standing Committee on Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning on the Marine Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response and Cooperation Bill B10B 2022 NCOP dated 4th of March as follows. The Standing Committee on Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, having considered the subject of the Marine Oil Pollution Preparedness, Response and Cooperation Bill B10B 2022 NCOP, referred to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 217, reports that it supports the bill. Thank you, colleagues, for all of the inputs in terms of getting that legislation dealt with. Finally, we are going to move on to item 7, which is the minutes of the 11th of February, which have been circulated, and I'm taking it that they have been read. Do we have a proposer for those minutes to be accepted and adopted? Honourable Constable. Seconder, Honourable Masipa. Thank you very much. And then, colleagues, finally, just in terms of the resolutions, there was a proposal that was made in terms of the way forward for public participation, in terms of the assistance to municipalities bill, that we have a public participation, a physical public participation meeting, which is then also opened up for virtual access, and that take place within the coming months. And we use this metro location in the metro as a venue for centrality and accessibility purposes. Colleagues, are we in agreement with that? Yes. Sorry, Member Constable had his hand up.
Yeah, look, one note the the lack of funding, but I think we need to talk to the venue that we're going to use, because if we use a venue in in the metro, where most people have access to virtual platforms. And in the rural areas, there's not all of them have that kind of access. So I think if we're going for that road, we need to look into the kind of venue that we're going to use.
I think perhaps a proposed solution for that, and Mr. Kutsia, maybe you could assist in terms of whether this has happened before, is to potentially ask the municipalities in those regions to make a facility available with the virtual meeting taking place. Obviously, another benefit of having it in the metro is that we have, over 4 million people here. So, the center of the population. But then in the smaller municipalities to provide a venue, and that way we're saving money, but we're also, is that something that you would be able to assist us in trying to coordinate?
Chairperson, yes. I think that would be the departure point that we would start. We have the public hearing in this precinct. Make it a hybrid virtual public hearing. We will invite all the municipalities, and then we will also ask them to facilitate for any members of the public to provide them with a platform to make a submission from the municipal offices then.
So in a way, they're still actually having a physical public engagement, but they're doing it through the virtual.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that works very well. Member Masipa? Sorry.
Can I go? Yeah. Thanks, Chair. I think the point you made with regards to the population of the Western Cape being 4 million population, and I'm just thinking about the virtual, the hybrid. How many would we have? Is it just going to be one hybrid, or is it going to be 2 hybrids? Just to make sure that we reach as many as
So I think the
possible,
intention is to have it in one session. So you then have your physical inputs at the actual meeting itself, and then you go onto the virtual platform to see for other inputs from other municipalities and members of the public.
A follow-up. Don't want to make it a dialogue, but I'm just thinking that normally, when we do this public hearing, we allocate 3 hours or we allocate 4 hours. However, then we'll be moving, from one area to the other. But then when we have got this virtual, we allocate maybe, if we do 3 hours, we'll probably be able to hear about 20 people, whereas, if you go to 3 areas, you might end up hearing, getting inputs from 60 people for that matter. So I'm just checking in that regard, or would we have extended period, meaning, maybe more than the 3 hours that we normally allocate to 6 hours, maybe. I'm just thinking.
Okay, I'm taking that on, and we can discuss that and maybe see then if we can separate it into 2 slots. So maybe the physical slot and then take a break and then we do the virtual afterwards. Maybe, yeah? Member Stoffel and then Member Murray.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I hear what you are saying and I take note. But still, Chair, I still believe the process that we want to follow won't be rechtvaardig, will be fair towards the citizens of Western Cape. I hear there's a problem of funding, but I would be more comfortable if we can even attempt to do 3 regions and the rest we can do it in a virtual. Because the thing is, you take this virtual, there's people from far out of the towns, especially the rural, because now with this process, you will exclude the rural. And that's where the problems is. So I'm of the view that if there's no funding, let the committee go and look for funding so that we can have a fair and square public participation from all angles in the Western Cape pertaining this local government, because this is about lives of people and service delivery towards people. So and the municipalities, in fact. So my view is that let's keep on with the public hearings. The committee should look for funds for at least 3 regions within the Western Cape. And because there's quite a lot of challenges is when it comes to virtual. We know what we are talking about. We are in that areas. There's quite a lot of challenges when it comes to virtual. And to me, it won't justify what we are doing towards the process. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Member Murray, did you want to add anything or are you covered?
Mr. Chair, I'll be very brief.
Sorry, just Member Stoffels, can you just turn your mic off? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll be very brief. I think the public participation process, just in terms of the channels available to people in order to express their opinion about a certain bill, that those channels be open in terms of email channels that they can use. Everybody can't attend in person, but we at least at the end of the public participation process wants to have a certain level of engagement or numbers that we can say this is the amount of people that actually participated in the process, whether it's on email or whether it's they went into the municipality area and they gave in a letter in terms of this particular bill to be submitted to the province. But it's just the channels that they can use, that we can maximize the channels and also obviously make sure that the advertisement reaches as many people as possible, every platform that we can utilize to expand the participation of the public, because having been a councillor before, I've seen the lack of participation at many a time, people not coming in to give comment, but at least there are other channels that we also open to justify at the end of the day that we have had a fair amount of participation. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Marie. And I'll give Mr. Kutsia opportunity to respond to that in a second in terms of the public participation. But you said we have someone online?
Member Vessels.
Member Vessels, can we just take your comment?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think I would just like to support your proposal in terms of the public participation. I note what what Member Stoffels has said. I just think that having it on a virtual platform, also allows for more municipalities can work with in setting up venues, etc., to increase public participation, maybe through that avenues. But yeah, I would like to support your proposal. I am always in favor of getting this type of bills and proposals through, because ultimately it does serve the citizens of the municipality and the Western Cape better. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Member Vessels. All right. Just hang on a second. No one else on the line, huh? No. Okay, sorry. Member Masipa, you had one more point, and then we'll have Member Constable, and then I'd just like to take this to resolution. Yeah.
Okay. So, the Chair, I think the most important point that we need to really be mindful of is that this is a very, very technical bill. Normally with such bills, we invite comments by advertisement, and if there are no comments, then we move on. If there are comments, then we incorporate those comments. If there are comments that warrant us to even invite those that made submissions, then we'll invite them to make a submission. So this is a very technical bill. I'm just wanting to make colleagues aware that, if we can really save on costs, let's do everything to save on costs. It is a technical bill as it is. So, going massively on really going to the ground to the people might just be not worth the while. But I think the public participation that we envisage I do support, but I just feel that maybe if there is a demand, we can really just make sure that we create, the visual, like you have said, visual, give the opportunity, and then obviously physical participation, give it an opportunity. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Masipa. Member Constable, and then we've got Member Johnson online, and those will be the last two.
Yeah, Chair. If it is about support and not support, then I would really not support, because what we try to do is like what Member Stoffels is saying. We are now really taking the voice of the rural communities away from them. All of us understand the lack of funding. All of us understand that we are in a financial crisis. But if we're going to do it virtually, then we need to make sure that the voice of rural communities is listened to. We can't say that we will give 3 hours. It will not be good enough for rural communities to raise their voice. This thing of communities not attending, it's out. If we advertise it, if we go to the ground and make sure that communities knows about it, this is a very important bill. This is about supporting the monitoring of municipalities. And if you listen to the people now, they are really into assisting and really into raising their voice. So with that said, I believe that we need to make, let's first then come and do a presentation to this committee on how the virtual public participation is going to work. And it must show that we really make sure that the voice of rural communities is being heard through this public participation. I can't support something that I don't know have content of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Constable. Noted. Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to support the virtual public participation process as well. And I think this is the perfect opportunity that we also call in local representatives on local government level to assist us in ensuring that all local and specifically rural areas actually participate in the public participation process. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Colleagues, we have to come to a resolution on this one. We have 2 proposals on the table. The first, and I'm taking into consideration what Member Constable has now suggested as well, in terms of the times, and Member Masipa, as well as the accessibility, is for us to have a hybrid session located in the Cape Town Metro physically, and then for our committee to make contact with the various municipalities and request that they facilitate a virtual hearing in their own regions so that they can participate, so to provide a venue with a connection. And also that we extend the time period for that session. So either to host it over 2 sessions, consecutive days, or for us to host it in one long session, so that we make sure that we provide adequate time for members to participate. So that is the one resolution proposal. The other proposal, which is on the table, is from Member Stoffels, that we have 3 sessions in 3 physical sessions in 3 separate regions within the province. And if I can just ask, I know we've got 2 members online, if we have support for the first proposal. Members, just by show of hands, if you could just raise your hand in terms of whether you support the first proposal for the hybrid session. Member Masipa, Member Wessels, Member Johnson, Member Marais, and I will add mine to that as well. All right, then I think there won't be a need for us to do the second one, but if Member Stoffels, Member Constable, would you like to support the second proposal?
Remember, mine was, I can't support if I don't have content.
Yes.
I need you to come and present to us, this is how the hybrid is going to work. Maybe then I can support it. Because I need to know how much time will be allocated to Central Karoo?
Okay.
How much time will be allocated to, so that we can at least know.
Okay.
If Central Karoo doesn't utilize the time, then it's up to them.
100%.
But I just need that content.
Okay, so Mr. Kutsia, we can get that content then to Member Constable, and we have obviously now made a call on that resolution, but we will get that information to Member Constable so he's aware. Member Stoffel, obviously you're going to go with your proposal for the 3 regions, and we'll note that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes, Chair. I think, Chair, it should not stop to Member Constable. Because remember here, it's about a majority vote. So whatever you are going to do, it should be sent to all of us. It should not be net only. And then secondly, Chair, we know by vote you are going to outcast us. But I think it's high time for the DA government to look into really the reality there outside and not assume everybody is with the technology outside. Some of the municipalities are in RFPs now as we speak. How are they going to manage these things? Those are the things that I don't think we take in consideration. Let's say for Kanaland, does they have money to do these things? No, I'm asking, Chair, I'm asking to you. I'm asking to you.
Yeah.
So, Chair, let us look into these things for future purposes. I don't believe this is the only bill that we have to sit here. But I think what we are mentioning should be taken in consideration from this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Stoffel, and thank you for those inputs. I mean, I think we've tried to take those into consideration, taking into noting the budgetary constraints and all of that. But yes, thank you very much. And those inputs are certainly noted. Mr. Kutsia, just in terms of Member Mare's point, in terms of the other public participation, emails, advertising and that, can you just explain how that will work?
Chairperson, what happened with this bill is we published it in the Provincial Gazette the end of last year. And I think the closing date was the 17th of January. And together with that, we have advertised in the Burger, Cape August, and the City Vision. We have advertised it in Afrikaans, English, and isiXhosa, asking for members of the public to submit written inputs, to submit WhatsApps to a number that we gave, to submit emails to my address. And the closing date for that was the 24th of January. We then also subsequently wrote to all the district municipalities and all the municipalities, asking them for their comments and input, and also to make the advertisement of this bill or the bill available to their ward councillors and to the public, broader public within their municipal areas. Flowing from that, we only had the City of Cape Town and Mossel Bay that provided us with comments and inputs on it. I have now received comments from Salga. So the process now going forward for the hybrid, we will write to the municipalities and to Salga again, ask them to facilitate a hybrid public hearing, making facilities available for the public to submit comments on the bill. And we will most probably will find public will come and say, but the street lights is out in my street, but it needs to be on the bill, so there needs to be comments on the bill. But what I'll do is I'll provide all the information to the committee members, and then we can take it from there. Chairperson, if we need to, we can make it a long extended hybrid hearing, yes, or we can break it up.
I think that's what's coming through very strongly from Member Constable and Member Stoffels. We must give time so that these municipalities are able to, they don't feel excluded, because often what happens is you have a long presentation and then you have 4 or 5 questions and poof, it's done. We have to make sure that we really give everyone an opportunity to have their say. So yeah, okay. Yes.
See, just a last question, and maybe the committee can take the decision now. Then we know how to plan. We've got 30 municipalities. If we break it up now already in 15-15,
Yes.
and we do it over 2 days, then
Yeah.
then maybe we deal with it like that.
That would be fine. I mean, obviously, the central facilitation would still have to happen from Cape Town.
From Cape Town.
But that would give people 2 days to attend the physical session as well, which means that, you know, we're actually opening it up even more. So, okay, that's fine. Colleagues, are you happy within 2 days? Okay, and that'll give us enough time. That's excellent. All right. Finally, are there any other resolutions to come out of the meeting today? Member Constable?
Yes, I don't know if there's something like tuning in in our municipalities. I know municipalities tune from South Africa to Canada and some. Is it something that we can discuss in this committee, or maybe there is, so we can look into it? And then I just need an update on with the new legislatures, specifically with regards to the Municipal Structures Act and the Municipal Systems Act. Are all municipalities' rules of order up to standard or up to date? If we can just get that clarity. Then with regards to the MIC, I don't think Marius answered the other question with regards to, he gave us the explanation on why the expenditure was low, but he didn't say will they be able to deal with all the money, or will there be rollovers? Will there be 100% expenditure on that 3 municipalities, or will that municipalities apply for rollovers? I think that is from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Noted. We'll endeavour to get those answers through to you. Definitely, Member Constable. Member Masipa?
Chair, thank you very much. I do believe that this report, we definitely need to ensure that they regularly, you know, come and give us updated quarterly report. I do believe it's worthwhile. But also, I think if, you know, without really having to wait for this, we can maybe even request to just on a monthly basis, just update us regarding, you know, what's happening to specific municipalities rather than the whole municipalities, but the specific municipalities that are challenged. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks. I think there was a sentiment echoed to me by Member Stoffels during the break, and I wonder if that was what she was going to raise. But I think that's a very good point. Member Stoffels, you want to add to that?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, you have covered me on that one. And then also the continuous update, not specifically on a quarterly basis, to see how the implementation of such actions from their side is going, whether the municipalities is cooperating with them and so forth. And then also, I think, Chair, in terms of the financial recovery plan, if I look into, where's the page now? They said something there that they are, on page 18. They've mentioned their section 139 interventions, under section 139 interventions. Yes, we have witnessed the one of Beaufort West. You understand? And there's the one of Canaland. Now, I don't understand. They are saying there is this financial recovery plan, but when you read here, it says it's imposed on due course. Sometimes it takes too long for them to implement, whilst the problem is already there. And I think in taking too long, it just worsened. Maybe they should, whereby they identify there's a need for this recovery plan, they should really immediately start with it, and not, because now how more they wait here in Canaland, how more the problem is getting bigger and bigger. Look, now they even got 2 months not paid ESCOM. You see, so I think there the team should then maybe speed up the issue of implementing the recovery plan. That is the only thing. And then also, they have mentioned in terms of the implementation of the recommendations. I appreciate that. In Neisner, yes. But they didn't touch on Matsikama, Cederberg, those. We want to hear what was being done about that implementation. I think that will be only fair for the committee, and also in terms of the practice that we are sending out, the message that we are sending out to municipalities, that we are no more taking these things for granted. You understand? So that fairness in terms. Otherwise, other than that, I'm happy with the report.
Thank you, Member Stoffel. Member Murray.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Mr.
Member
Chair.
Stoffel, can you just turn your, sorry. No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair, from my side, I would like to know what if the department, if this committee will agree that we need to perhaps ask whether the department has looked at the municipal equitable share and the new dynamics of climate change, the impact of that, have that been factored into our municipal equitable share calculation formula? Because some municipalities have become very vulnerable, more than others in terms of disasters, and then and not put us in a position where we have to beg national or go and look for funds every time to cover things that we haven't foreseen, but we can foresee now already because there's a trend. And then I just wanted to also, in terms of the department spoke about the training and the SALGA training and their training, competence training. Do they ever measure the effectiveness of the training? I'm just saying, you know, councillors all come from different backgrounds. And I don't know if, for example, in the case of Kanaland, were they trained? Is it just is the lack of capacity due to other factors? The effectiveness of training by SALGA and the department, how is that measured? I don't know if it's this committee will see value in that, but I'm just saying we investing. If you invest in anything, you need to get a return on it. And if we don't measure the return, then we're not doing our job properly. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Murray. You've got all those down, hey? Okay, fantastic. Member Stoffel.
Chair, there's another suggestion that we can even maybe consider. At some stage, we have as a committee to zoom straight into, especially these municipalities that has been mentioned, that has been in this gray. There's a need for the committee to zoom into that municipality one by one, to really check what is happening there. So I think as a committee at some stage, we should make provision for such a resolution. And then the other one, I'm worried about the Khoisan. I didn't hear anything about them commenting on that. And whilst we are sitting with those cultural groups in our areas, and they are complaining to say there's very little from the province towards their needs. I think as the department, they should really come with a proper presentation. The last time they had indicated there's no proper funds, there is no, so we don't know what is really happening there. If the committee, because they are also falling under us. So we have to look into that. I thought they will say something about it, but they didn't.
Thanks, Member Stoffel. As I understand, sort of Khoisan specific. So obviously, you know, the department in terms of its public participation deals with everybody, regardless of their sort of tribe or cultural group. But I do know that the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport deals specifically when it comes to issues relating to Khoisan. So perhaps we can see if there is any information from that committee or that department in terms of their public participation processes and whether they do address Khoisan groups specifically. I'm not aware of it, but I don't know, Mr. Kutsia, if you have more experience with this one.
Chair, I think they do. Yeah. They do interact with them more. But in terms of what Member Stoffels raised, is that it does lie with local government. The Constitutional Court has found that the Khoisan Leadership Bill was unconstitutional and referred it back to the National Assembly. They had 2 years, and I think it expires, the second year expires now shortly. I think it's definitely a point for the agenda for future meetings, that we do have a briefing by the department and just find out what is the status. Because that will inevitably come back to this committee. And if you think we're doing a lot of public hearings on this other bill, we're going to do much more public hearings on this one.
I think we definitely have to save up some budget for that.
But it is with local government, and I think it's a good item for a future meeting.
100%
to get a briefing on that issue.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, thank you very much for the inputs. I really think we had a very productive meeting today. So it was really good. And Member Wessels and Member Johnson, I know you've had some challenges, and I hope you get those all sorted out, and we'll see you physically very soon. But thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, agriculture. But it's more getting our house in bit in order. I say it's more getting our house a bit in order, more business plan, and no, it's just very important. Sometimes, I think we all